Start in a dense, dripping rainforest, then step out into a sun-baked, dusty plain. In Uganda, the landscape flips like a switch. For centuries, the people living here have followed a strict map. If you plant crops, your ancestors settled in the south. If you raise cattle, your roots are in the north. Nobody drew a line in the sand. There was no ancient king assigning land to different groups. Instead, where people lived was decided entirely by rain, the dirt under their feet, and the local bugs. To figure out how these distinct cultures took shape, we have to look at how early humans navigated the unforgiving biological realities of their home. Thousands of years ago, the ancestors of the Bantu-speaking people arrived around the southern and western shores of Lake Victoria. They walked into an ecosystem defined by constant moisture. The rain here falls predictably, soaking into deep, fertile soil. That specific combination of heavy rain and rich dirt is perfect for heavy, water-hungry crops. The early settlers began growing massive bunches of green bananas, called matuke, along with starchy root vegetables. But a banana grove requires year-round babysitting. You have to prune the leaves, manage the soil, and harvest the heavy fruit. You cannot pack up a grove and walk away. Because their food stayed put, the people stayed put. They built sturdy, permanent homes close together to share the heavy labor of farming. The biological needs of a banana plant ended up shaping an entire society centered on owning specific plots of land and building lifelong communities. Now, head north and east. Here, the ancestors of the Nilotic people faced a completely different reality. The dense forests disappear, replaced by endless plains of grass and scattered trees. More importantly, the rain here is wildly unpredictable. Sometimes it falls, often it doesn't. A banana plant would crisp up and die in days here. If these communities wanted to grow anything, they had to rely on incredibly tough, drought-resistant grains like sorghum. But grain alone wasn't enough to survive the dry seasons. To guarantee they wouldn't starve, they relied on walking food sources, immense herds of livestock. They raised specific breeds of cattle that could digest tough savanna grasses and walk for miles through dry sandy brush just to find a drink of water. Without reliable rain to lock them to a single plot of land, they became a highly mobile society. Their homes moved with the seasons, and their wealth was counted in hooves, not acres. If you own a hungry herd of cattle and there is a lush, green paradise just a few 100 miles south, the obvious move is to walk your cows down to the grass. But they didn't. This plate shows exactly what stopped them. The top 3 panels detail a tiny, blood-sucking insect called the tsetse fly. Tsetse flies die quickly in the hot, open sun of the northern plains, but they thrive in the thick, humid brush of the south. Those green farming forests were swarming with them, and as you can see in the microphotograph on the bottom right, these flies carried a microscopic parasite that triggers a lethal wasting disease in cattle. Humans could sometimes endure the bite, but for cattle it was a death sentence. Any herder who drove his cows too far south watched his entire livelihood collapse, forcing the survivors straight back to the dry savanna. The fly was an invisible fence, separating the groups. Mapped from above, Uganda divides by soil, green south, yellow north. The fatal fly zone perfectly overlays the green. Farming communities map to the green, and herding cultures strictly to the yellow edge. The map of human culture is identical to the map of local biology. The traditions we build, the foods we eat, and the ways we structure our lives do not happen by accident. They are the brilliant, creative ways our ancestors figured out how to survive whatever the earth put in front of them.